Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight.
Consultant doctors speak out after their meeting with the Prime Minister.
2 people perished following a shooting at SRC.
The president of the Medical Association of the Bahamas says the PHA is taking a gamble with healthcare.
Our News is brought to you by Alive.
Welcome to Our News and thanks for joining us. I'm Jared Higgs. Topping news tonight, a much anticipated meeting with the Prime Minister didn't quite go as planned for some union leaders who slammed this morning's sit-down at OPM as nothing more than a pointless publicity stunt. While several of those union leaders thanked Dr. Minnis for meeting with them, others weren't so impressed.
Well, we're going to have Burma Road again because persons are just taking the plight of workers very, very slightly in this country.
A scathing rebuke by Bahamas Public Service Union President Kingsley Ferguson, who says the Prime Minister's 3-hour meeting with approximately 40 union leaders was a waste of time. Ferguson wasn't alone, as several other trade unionists blasted the rendezvous, essentially saying thanks, but no thanks.
I didn't find the meeting to actually be beneficial. I'd start off by saying that I guess this government whole goal of transparency is out of the door, as we were asked not to even take in our phones in the meeting. And pretty much we just sat there and vent our concerns that have been addressed numerous times by numerous union organizations. There was a meeting 6 months ago, nothing has happened then. So to me, just moving backwards instead of forwards.
But all I saw it as was an opportunity to regurgitate the same problems that we have been articulating for years and years and years. So there was no commitment to anything.
So we just want to thank the Prime Minister for giving us an opportunity to come to be in his presence and to say, how are you doing? Because nothing meaningful was achieved.
We say to the Prime Minister, thank you very much for hosting us today. You did host us. The only thing that we didn't have is a little cup of coffee, but a bottle of water.
Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis called the meeting last Thursday in the midst of threats of widespread industrial action. That includes a CPSA strike that kicked off last Tuesday. Atlantis workers voted to strike back in September, while Morton salt workers voted to strike last month. Nurses are also set to take a strike vote on Tuesday, while teachers at CH Reeves have applied for a strike poll. Despite the criticism leveled by union leaders, Minister of Labour Dion Fowkes expressed optimism.
I thought personally that it went very well. Everybody had an opportunity to put all of their issues on the table. Some of them have not been addressed. Some of them are being addressed, and that we are hopeful that over the period of months that we're able to deal with the majority of the union issues in the country.
Folks also responded to the BPSU president's suggestion that a general strike could be on the way.
I don't know. It all depends on the unions to make a decision what's in the interest of their membership. The government have to consider the interests of the entire country, and I think that the Prime Minister is doing a good job in striking that balance.
Ultimately, the union leaders we spoke with described the day as a public relations stunt that left them empty-handed.
It is an exercise for you guys so that it can be seen by Bahamas that the Prime Minister of the Bahamas is doing something to address the many ills that beset workers in our country.
So here we went back out in the community empty-handed. We should have had something tangible to present to the people and the workers of this country. We did not have anything tangible. We should have been given dates and time limits.
Well, that early morning meeting with the Prime Minister didn't do the trick either for executives of the Consultant Physician Staff Association, who said they'll continue industrial action until their demands are met. Jasmine Brown reports.
We spoke to those consultant doctors moments after they wrapped up their meeting with the Prime Minister, but not before they were greeted by another irate union leader.
Because these government persons, they're jokers. God knows that they're jokers. It's sad, but it's true.
That's Trade Union Congress official Tyrone Rock Morris, letting media and members of the CPSA know exactly what he thought about the PM's meeting with the trade unionists on Monday morning.
We have to say to them, you must stop pretense like that. This is that. We got to say it, man. Don't not play with these politicians. I don't care who they may be. You cannot. They have interest at heart to some small extent. You understand? Because they have those things. But as much as they can get away with not doing, trust me.
Morrison, who joined other union leaders for a meeting following the doctors' meeting, insisted it was nothing more than a courtesy call. He accused successive governments of failing unions and their workers for years. However, president of the CPSA, Dr. Loxley Monroe, was hopeful as he called the 2-hour meeting that began at 7:30 a.m. a step in the right direction.
Meeting went fairly well.
But Dr. Monroe said the face-to-face meeting, which also included execs from the Bahamas Doctors Union, Trade Union Congress leaders, and Financial Secretary Marlon Johnson, did not solve their ongoing issues. For that reason, those consultant physicians' industrial action continues.
It has moved the process forward. It hasn't brought it to the conclusion, but the process has been moved forward in a manner that you can almost see that there'll be a resolution, almost. We shall continue our industrial action until this matter is resolved. That's how long it takes. So it is on the administrators and the policymakers to bring this to a conclusion as quickly as possible.
Senior doctors are still locked in dispute with the Public Hospitals Authority over several issues. More than 100 senior physicians have withdrawn services throughout the Bahamas following failed negotiations with the PHA.
He has organized a meeting of priority between the CPSA, the Financial Secretary, Mr. Marlon Johnson, and some persons from the Ministry of Finance. And that meeting is supposed to take place within the next 24 hours or so.
As for when senior doctors will return to work, Monroe says they are prepared to stay off the job for as long as it takes.
Return to work is going to depend on an acceptable agreement. And until such time as we have such a document that's signed off on, then returning to work is not on the table as yet.
Reporting for our news, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Thanks, Jasmine. It was an emotional scene at Sandilands Rehabilitation Center this morning after a man and a woman were shot and killed outside the facility on Fox Hill Road. Gillian Gray has the details.
Sandilands Rehabilitation Center was shut down for about 2 hours today following a shooting incident on property that claimed the lives of 2 people.
Shortly after 10 a.m. this morning, police responded to a gunshot report here at the entrance to Sandilands Rehabilitation Center. Once police officers arrived on the scene, they met 2 victims. One was lying on the ground, appeared lifeless, and the second victim, was a female, was seated in the driver's seat of the white vehicle just in front of me. The officers contacted EMS, who came and pronounced both victims deceased on the scene. What we would want to say is that we don't suspect that this incident had anything to do with the Sandilands Rehabilitation Center. We believe that this was an isolated incident.
As news of the shooting spread, family and friends of the victim gathered at the scene. Some of them were inconsolable. Relatives told our news that the male victim is Neil DeVoe, a father of a 3-year-old boy. Neil's father was on the scene and said he spoke to his son just this morning. He said his son was at SRC receiving leg therapy following a shooting incident just a few months ago. Based on preliminary reports, the 2 assailants were waiting for the victim and chased him with a handgun after he tried to flee from his vehicle. While no description of the suspects has been released, Superintendent Cash said they know which car they're looking for.
We are getting information that a black SUV Jeep may have been involved in this incident. We've been told that 2 men emerged from that black SUV and they approached the white vehicle and they opened fire on the vehicle.
While the identity of the female victim remains unknown, Superintendent Cash confirmed that the male victim is known to police.
The male victim, as we know, is known to us and was the subject of a shooting incident sometime in August this year. We believe that he is one of our prolific offenders who were targeted since August this year. We believe he came to do therapy based on the information we're working with thus far.
Noting that the male victim was shot earlier this year, Superintendent Cash said this incident could be gang-related.
We suspect, based on the profile of the victim, that it could be some form of retaliation against the male victim.
Could it be gang-related?
We suspect so.
Police plan to beef up patrols in the area to prevent retaliation from this incident.
The victim is connected to the Fox Hill area, and we will be looking at that particular area, looking at the associates of the victim, and also those persons that came to our attention who may be possible persons of interest for perpetrating this crime.
Reporting for our news, I'm Jillian Gray.
Thanks, Jillian. Moving on now, as the Bahamas Nurses Union prepares for a strike poll scheduled for tomorrow, the union president was asked if nurses will follow junior doctors who recently revealed that they wouldn't take industrial action as long as their senior counterparts are striking.
No, that doesn't apply to the nurses. That is a legal document. They have an oath that they will take, and they vow to their oath. So there's policies and rules that regulates an industrial agreement, and they're following their rules. We will not put anybody at risk. The managing team will be there, and the consultants will still be there, like they say. They're still there advising the junior doctors.
The Nurses Union was among approximately 30 unions that attended a meeting with the Prime Minister earlier today. Asked if that meeting eliminated the need for a strike vote, Amantia Williams said this.
I would have thought that we're the largest employees in the hospital. If we go on strike, could you imagine what's going to happen? Along with the doctors are not there, along with EMS, along with the clerks, all the other rest of workers decided that, hey, we had enough. Could you imagine? And you just didn't say nothing towards that. That tells you, are we an essential service? We'll find out soon.
The president of the Bahamas Medical Association is tonight slamming the Public Hospitals Authority over its handling of talks with the Consultant Physician Staff Association. Dr. E. Marcus Cooper says if the PHA thinks strong-arming consultant physicians will work, it couldn't be more wrong. Kyle Joaquin has more.
Right, Jared, we spoke with Dr. Cooper here at his office. He said the situation is just sad all around. But he said what makes it worse is that the government and the PHA has the ability to fix the situation with just the stroke of a pen.
If you keep the patient at the center of this whole argument, they're the only people that are really losing.
Cooper said the Consultant Physician Staff Association, which represents 130 physicians, has every right to feel the way it does, and he hopes a resolution is reached quickly. But he said he couldn't help but feel disappointed in the manner in which the Public Hospitals Authority and in part the government has been handling the situation.
The government, I feel, the government and the administration of the PHA has the ability to fix the situation and do so very quickly. I mean, if this were really an issue of national importance, which it is, with a stroke of the pen, you should be able to fix this. This is not an insurmountable problem.
Consultant physicians have highlighted concerns with working conditions and the lack of health insurance and said they've not received raises in 10 years. For Dr. Cooper, payment for these senior physicians is a huge problem compared to what they would be making elsewhere.
Physicians have compromised. We've been compromising. I mean, I can speak personally, I've been home since 2000. The average gastroenterologist in the U.S. is making close to $400,000 a year. And even for 20 hours, even if you cut that in half, for a 20-hour work week, it's way more than $48,000.
And while these consultant physicians have withdrawn services from public health care facilities, Cooper said they didn't abandon their patients.
Physicians in the CPSA and out, we're still taking care of patients, right? We're still going to see not only emergencies, but urgencies because we have a conscience.
For Our News, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
Till the coming Hour News, the latest on voluntary separation packages offered to Grand Lucayan workers. Plus, Christmas comes early for students at Yellow Elder Primary. Stay tuned.